At the beginning of recording season 2 of this podcast and the first season of the YouTube channel, I was really trying to figure out how to honor myself insofar as what I felt I was aligned and called to do, and really struggling with everybody else I had learned from. And I've talked about this before, but I'll give you a little snippet. When I first started my business, I was figuring things out alone. I had nobody to guide me. There was no Google back then. I figured it out. That's just my personality. And then when I really started wanting to learn more about marketing and how it worked, and I was very fortunate to find other female marketing mentors, coaches, people to model after. I really never found another Latina that was in that same space. I'm the first person in my house when I was growing up. I was very much the advocate for all races, cultures, colors, annoyingly so, but I felt that it was needed. Growing up in the bubble of Miami, where most of the people around me, my high school was 99% Hispanic and 98% of the school were Cuban, which is great. It's beautiful. I grew up in a bubble. I didn't know what the word minority was until I went away to college at 17. I didn't know what it was like to be outside of Miami. I mean, my parents, we traveled and I learned. They did so much for us. They sacrificed to make sure that we went to really good schools. But in growing up, in going away, I realized that I was a minority. The word minority, the heaviness of what it feels, there are no words. There are no words to explain. The marketing I was learning and coaching that I was receiving when I did work with one-on-one coaches or in group coaching or in courses I took, they were all Caucasian. They weren't even minorities. They were just Caucasian. Again, nothing wrong with that. But I never understood why I felt so not myself when I was putting together my website or when I was thinking about podcasts or YouTube. And I really knew I wanted to help others in a different way and coach them. And I chose therapists because I'm a therapist and I felt like it was relatable. I've been speaking a lot with therapists. I have courses I've created with therapists. Some of them, yes, I attracted were Latina. Business ownership, entrepreneurship. I feel that our journey as Latinas, our journey as a first gen, which is another term I heard for the first time a few years ago when I was mentoring and coaching another Latina entrepreneur therapist. I didn't know exactly what it meant. I didn't know that that's who I was. Our story is so unique. I knew my story. I knew why I had my story. I started learning and becoming really interested in first-gen trauma or transgenerational trauma. Incredible. I remember reading the book, It Didn't Start With You, and the idea that when my grandmother was pregnant with my mom, I was already part of that system because my mom developed her eggs while she was growing inside of my grandmother. Mind-blowing. And as a sociologist, as a social worker, I know that the impact culture has, trauma has, the effects of birth order and genograms and just the what's happening in the world around you while you're pregnant, while you're stressed, or the habits that are developing, right? If you grew up in a time where, the Great Depression and there wasn't food, well, chances were that it was going to be really stressful. Maybe there was a lot of drinking and there wasn't a lot of nourishment. Everything is generations later. Cycle breaker, change maker, what's that? All of the things that I've learned recently that I identify with in my soul, I didn't even know what they were. I didn't know the terms. I didn't know how to verbalize it. And leading up to trying to figure out why I felt so split, at first I felt that I felt split because I'm a therapist, professional, and I recorded a whole episode about the expectations, right, that are placed on therapists, how we show up, how we dress, how we speak. And not the pressure of that, but the expectation again is a weight where I felt like I couldn't truly be myself. Now I am as authentic as possible. And my clients know that. They know that I'm not your typical therapist. I'm still appropriate. I'm still eloquent. I'm still professional. I'm still clinically well-versed. I definitely know I help my patients. I always thought still though that there was a part of me that was holding back because when we're in training, we're taught to hold back. No personal pictures, no personal effects. We don't talk about us. And I understand that. Being in the field for a while and starting really young. I mean, I graduated high school at 17. I started college at 17. I finished early. I was barely 20, had just turned 20 when I graduated. It went pretty much straight into my master's, talk about overachieving. We can do a whole first gen thing on this. The impact was significant, and the toll of expectations from our culture, from our family, with all good intention. I didn't know how much the impact was. Going back to being a therapist and how you're supposed to show up there, I felt like I couldn't fully be myself. A lot of times when I was building my coaching business, I have legally, it's really good to have, and I spoke to my attorney about protecting my business, protecting my license. My coaching is a separate business from my therapy practice. But again, it felt like I was splitting myself in half. I really struggled for a long time. I have 2 different websites. I have, I don't know how many different profiles on Facebook and on Instagram for marketing purposes, and email addresses. Again, I constantly felt split. I realized recently, very recently, that the reason that I felt split was because in all of my training, resources, coaching, and mentoring, I didn't get to feel or sound myself, not because of anybody's fault, but because they were teaching me what works for them in the industry as a Caucasian working with other Caucasians. And guess what? I'm not a Caucasian. I love working with first gen. I love working with Latinas. Last year, I had the idea of the terminology, the word, it popped into my head, Latinas Empowering Latinas. I felt there was this missing link. I remember being at my son's was a birthday party at a park. I was watching him, but he was playing, he was having fun. There were other parents there. I pulled on my laptop. I registered for the trademark Latinas Empowering Latinas right away. I was so excited. And for the first time, I felt this rush of energy, of passion, of soul stirring. There's no words. I felt like my heart was going to explode with excitement because I finally felt like this feels good. Working with other coaches, even I remember my first iteration of my coaching website, I chose a coach that I found through somebody else that I admired and I work with, an attorney, and I worked with her. But again, she was Southern Caucasian. The sound of my website, the copyright on that, because she helped me write it because I didn't know what I was doing. It didn't sound or feel like me, but it was what I felt I had to sound like in order to succeed. I was following somebody who I thought knew what they were doing. Fast forward to this year when I joined a new membership with Marie Forleo, who's phenomenal. I've taken her business marketing courses, her copywriting courses, her time management courses. I am a Marie Forleo fan. She came up with this membership that I'm in, and something started to stir in me again. Well, what happens is I had spoken to one of my mentors on my drive shortly after I trademarked 2 years ago. I right away got excited and passionate. I'm rebranding and this feels so good. This feels so me. I booked a branding session. I'm driving down to Miami and I pull over because I was chosen by my mentor to go on this group coaching call. I was so excited, like hid in a candy store on Christmas morning under the tree, excited. I am explaining to her my pivot and my goal and that I was on my way down to this photo shoot, on my way down to Miami. I was told, Janessa, I know you're not going to like what I have to say, but I think you should stick to working with therapists. Your Latinas will find you. You ever seen the cartoons where it goes, yeah. Well, that's how my heart and my soul felt. Talk about discouragement from the other Latina I found in the space. The first one I found, I was like, oh my God, if there's another Latina telling me not to focus on Latinas and she's mega successful, then she must be right. Lesson number 1 is listen to your heart, listen to your gut, trust your soul. Just because somebody else has succeeded in something, you can take their advice under consideration, but for the love of Jesus Christ, please trust what you feel, because there is one of us. We are put on this earth for a reason. If we don't fulfill what we're supposed to fulfill in our destiny, if we're allowed to be swayed by other people, the world will never receive what we have to give. Deflated, I go to my photo shoot, actually had a phenomenal photo shoot in Miami because again, that's my home, that's my anchor. That is where I feel at home. Fast forward to the membership I'm in now. As soon as the membership starts and opens, I receive an email. Guess what? My trademark that I filed the year before, Latinas Empowering Latinas, that I was so excited about and I had put on the back burner because of the advice that I received from somebody who was a millionaire, a multimillionaire, that I assumed must be right. I put it on the back burner. I was sad, but I felt, you know what? She knows what she's doing. She's talking about. Maybe she's right. Maybe she's right. Maybe I just need to really focus even more than I've been focusing on working with therapists. Well, I get this email that says, congratulations, Latinas Empowering Latinas has been trademarked. You own it. I don't know how to explain the mixed feelings. It was this sense of, do I give myself permission to be excited? Oh my God, I'm excited. It's mine. Oh my God, I'm excited. It's mine. And it's in the back burner. What do I do? And here's what happens when you're part of a community that may not be exactly like you, but is also in the growth and the pivot, when it's collaboration over competition. When I poured my heart out, you know what? I will find the post that I made, the share that I made. I will share it with you. They said, I hear the spirit and the passion that you started this. Go do it. I am so happy that in a few months since then, I created my community of Latinas Empowering Latinas. I have never, I get excited over things, right? When I get motivated and inspired, but this membership, this community that is growing small and mighty, these women are so incredibly bright, motivated, willing to work on things. I'm tough. Like, I push people past challenges. I have lots of ideas. I listen to ideas. We help problem solve. There's a lot of accountability in there. My heart feels so full when I work with them. Well, talk about alignment and putting things out into the universe. Because shortly after I decide I'm going to focus on this, I decide I'm going to create this community, I have the community in the works, I receive an email. And it was my alma mater, NYU, reaching out to alumni because they have a program, are you ready? Dedicated to first gen NYU students. They were looking for NYU alum to mentor them. I am so humbled, honored, excited to say that I have now officially become an NYU mentor for first gen students. And I was assigned my first 2 mentees. They are beautiful, brilliant, first gen NYU students who are in the fields of psychology. And one of them is on her way to be pre-med. And I cannot wait to work with them. Lesson today is, listen to other people, but trust your heart and your gut at the end. I have no words how to tell you what a transformative year it has been, not because of anything new, but because of really listening to myself, feeling finally aligned and not split. I was never split because I was a therapist and a coach. I was never split because I was doing something wrong. I was split because I kept trying to dim my light, not to fit in, but to follow the expectations that were placed upon me that I chose to accept. If you're in a position where you're struggling with a dream, a passion, a mission, this is for me with entrepreneurship as well. When you work for somebody else and it doesn't feel good, then it's time to go. If there's a dream you have in your heart, it is time to make it happen. If you don't feel aligned in the work that you're doing and why you started doing your work or your passion to begin with, I went into my field to help people. I wanted to work in schools and I did. But what I didn't know, I realized later, was that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help families. I wanted to work in schools. And that's a different story that I've shared as well on the podcast. It has to do with my family lineage. However, it wasn't the best place for me because I wasn't allowed to bring the change that I wanted because the administration stifled me. They wanted a paper pusher. They may have paid me well, but I didn't feel good. That is not why I went to my field. If you're struggling, this is your mission. This is your homework to take some time without any direction other than, how does it feel in my life right now? Do I feel like I'm being true to myself, to my culture, to my mission, or do I feel disconnected? If you feel disconnected, then it is time to see what has wavered you, what has caused you to step outside of the zone of where you wanted to start, what you really want to do. And you will find your answers, because there is nothing worse than to live the one life that we have, feeling like there's something missing. I'll see you next time.